So could the Liberal-NDP deal be in jeopardy? Let's bring in the front bench panel. Sabrina Grover, she was a federal Liberal candidate in the 2021 election. She's now principal at Shakti Strategies. Melanie Paradis is the former communications director to Erin O'Toole. She's now president of Texture Communications. Former Ontario NDP MPP Jagmeet Singh got it right this time, and I'll have to do it every Friday from now on. He's the vice president at Crestview Strategy. He's also the brother of federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. And here in studio with me, CTV News senior digital parliamentary reporter Rachel Aiello. Welcome to Friday, all. Sabrina, let's start with you. What do you make of this strong language that Singh is using today?
I think it's the same strong language we've seen Singh use for the last 18 months when he threatens to pull something. Listen, I think that the NDP is struggling to stay relevant and continue to stay in the news and be the spokespeople for the issues that they want to put forward. And I think that that's why you continuously see Jagmeet Singh trying to, put these deadlines in. By his own admission, he pushes the deadlines when it becomes convenient because the NDP isn't in a position to call an election. They aren't in a position to pull this deal. And more importantly, this deal is bringing to them the coalition of voters that they might need to actually be successful in certain regions in this election. And so I think that, it's up to the Liberals to see how this deal actually takes place. And I think for them, it's also about their coalition of voters and whether or not what does a successful deal look like in terms of what they're going to roll out. But I mean, this is one of many times that Jagmeet Singh has said he's going to pull the deal, and I just don't see that happening.
Grattan, you know your brother pretty well. How serious is he?
I think he's very serious. So let's look at this. We had a supply and confidence agreement that said we needed legislation for pharmacare before the end of last year. There was a delay there, and the NDP was clear. They said, well, we'll accommodate a delay as long as we are bringing in a better result for people. For the NDP, this has always been about helping people, whether it's been providing the largest expansion of our healthcare system through the dental care program, which will be helping around 9 million Canadians, to a pharmacare system. They've been a good faith actor in this agreement. Now, if the Liberals are still going to act as bad faith actors and not actually bring forth this legislation, then ultimately it comes back to helping people. If they're not going to help people, then the NDP is not going to support them in this supply and confidence agreement. So I think there's been a build-up, there's been a compromise, and now we're seeing the Liberals not living up to their promise. So I think the NDP is very serious, and March 1st will show us.
Melanie, are the Conservatives sort of sitting there right now, licking their chops, watching this all play out?
Yes, and I think that they're pleased to see Jagmeet Singh take a stronger tone. I think that that's good for their electoral prospects as well. The reality is that the NDP don't have the money in the bank to go to an election, so a lot of this is blow and bluster. But it's blow and bluster that Jagmeet Singh needs right now in order to get more attention, to get his ratings up in the polls, to get people talking about him in a positive way, seeing him as an advocate. So I think this is a smart strategy. Just 2 weeks ago, he referred to dealing with the Prime Minister and with the Liberals on healthcare as wrestling with a slippery eel. And so now we see him out again this week with this language. I think we'll continue to see a ratcheting up until we see the pharmacare bill. And then the NDP will likely, no matter what it is, call it a victory and hope to get a bump from that.
Yeah. Now, Rachel, you were with the NDP at their last caucus meeting in Edmonton. Was this at all on the table for them?
Yeah, I was actually there in the room when he made the slippery eel comment. And what the conversation there was largely Don Davies, the health critic, saying that they had put some creative proposals on the table in line with what we heard from Singh, talking about needing more than just the bill because of the delay. I think what is really going to be interesting to watch, though, is this like the sky is falling Chicken Little situation, that the NDP is their latest version of we're going to do this, right? Or is he serious? And what is going to be in that bill that satisfies them? They've made it very clear their red line is a universal program, accusing the Liberals of trying to prop up pharmaceutical companies. I actually am taking this one a bit more seriously than some of the other times Jagmeet Singh has thrown out some of these threats.
Right. Sabrina, I mean, the Liberals have managed to buy themselves some time. And the thing is, I think everybody here has seen the poll numbers, and it doesn't exactly favor either the Liberals or the NDP. So do you think that the March 1st deadline is either movable or meetable?
I think for the Liberals, what they need to focus on is the major crisis that Canadians are facing right now, which is affordability. And that's not coming through on the pharmacare side. It's coming through on housing and groceries. And I think that that's where you're going to see them put their attention. I think they've already been quite serious about some of those things in the last parliamentary session, just before the Christmas break. I think we've seen them accelerate announcements on housing in particular over the last couple of months. And so I think that that's going to be what they're going to put their focus on. I think the budget is going to be a particularly important time to see where the Liberals think that they can kind of bring back some of those voters onto their side, given these polling numbers. But I think at the end of the day, the Liberals are doing what's best for Canadians, and that's dealing with some of the major affordability crisis that they're facing today.
Yeah, and Melanie, at some point, Jagmeet Singh does have to put some distance between himself and Prime Minister Trudeau, because how else does he go to the doorstep and really differentiate himself from the Prime Minister, as Mr. Poilievre has really put them both on the same team? So do you think that this is the beginning of that process?
I do. I anticipate that whatever the Liberals and the NDP come up with for the pharmacare bill, that Jagmeet Singh will likely position this as a first step, that it's something that he can tolerate for now. It's not good enough. It's not what he's going to run on. He'll run on more, but that this is a good first step. And, that way he can take it as a win, but still build upon it.
Grattan, how many times has he, when you consider how many times, as Rachel had said, that Mr. Singh has done this before, at this point, does he have to follow through, or will he risk, to continue on with the nursery rhyme analogy that Rachel started, is he going to be the boy that cried wolf?
So, I'll give you the inside scoop on this as his brother. Every time I've ever interacted with my brother, and anytime his conversation of politics comes up, the center of it is always about people. How can we help people? How can he use his power to help people in any way, shape, or form? This prospect of pharmacare is a really important initiative for Canada. We're talking about people who are cutting their pills in half right now to make ends meet because they can't afford the medication they need to get better. If at the center of this is a decision that will help Canadians by bringing in a pharmacare system, then of course that's a good decision. That's a good win for Canadians. But if the Liberals are not going to bring in this agreement, fulfill their part of the deal, then I think that, we've seen a buildup here, and Jagmeet's going to be true to his word. He's always going to act in a way that helps Canadians, and if the Liberals aren't going to be that partner in it, then he's going to fulfill the position that he's taken. He's not going to carry forward with this agreement.
Grattan, I take your point, and you're not on trial here at all. You're a great panelist, but I guess the question is, everybody's sitting here going, okay, but he's done this before, so why should anybody believe him this time?
Yeah, so I'll go back to the fact that there's a buildup here, right? So the deadline was just last, 2 months ago. It was in December. They had to the end of last year to table legislation. That did not happen. So now there was a further promise from the Liberals to say, okay, we'll be good faith actors and we'll bring in the legislation by March on the agreement that there's more in this deal now to help Canadians. If the Liberal Party is not going to fulfill their obligation, if they're not going to help people, they're not going to help seniors who are struggling, then yes, the NDP is going to be firm on this position, and they're not going to work alongside the Liberals if they're bad faith actors. This is about helping people, and if they're not going to be that conduit, if the NDP can't use their power to help people in this fashion, then the NDP is not going to work with the Liberals.
Rachel, in a minority parliament situation, if the NDP pulls out, what changes?
Well, that's going to be what's really interesting, and the timing of this being March 1st is presumably going to come to bear before the next budget. So even if the NDP pull out of this deal, the Liberals still have the ability to, on a one-by-one basis, go to a party for support. And that's not to say that they might put something else out there that the NDP would support, this deal aside, or they'd look to the Bloc, or potentially, I doubt it, the Conservatives. But just because this deal is done doesn't mean we're thrust into an election.
Right.
It's back into what I would call a normal minority parliament dynamic, where you're having to seek support on a case-by-case basis for matters of competence. Daily votes, a bit lower stakes, but in terms of those big ones, it's kind of par for the course, and then it would be only then after that the Liberals fell or failed to pass one of those confidence motions that we would be into an election conversation. So just, March 1st, if they pull out, it's not an immediate, we're all heading to Rideau Hall.
Yes, thank God. But Sabrina, talk a little bit about that and what happens just in the atmosphere around Parliament Hill, because to Rachel's point, we're not rushing to an election, but we are certainly getting candidates ready, aren't we?
I mean, already, I think the atmosphere since the start of session in September has been quite toxic in Parliament Hill, and I don't think you're seeing it. I don't think it's going to get any better this session. So I think that that's something that all parties kind of have to contend with in terms of how they both present themselves in the House, but also present themselves to voters, and really win back this like idea of voters that there is a positive side to politics and to government. I think that on all sides, it's smart for parties to always be kind of campaign ready. But I will just make one more point on this, on pharmacare piece. And I think for the Liberals and for the provinces, one of the most important things that they're going to have to contend with in the next couple of months is healthcare in its precarious state. I think you had, the president of the Ontario Medical Association on the show earlier, and it is dire. And I think that that is going to have to be a major thing that people contend with on all sides of the spectrum.
So, Melanie, when the Conservatives see this, if, for instance, we are back into that minority parliament, how do they change their strategy? Are they looking maybe to join forces with the Bloc on certain confidence matters? Because they're another player in all of this as well.
Certainly they are, and they're definitely campaign ready. I mean, we saw their numbers in terms of the fundraising. Their war chest is enormous coming into a potential election year. So I think that they're extremely well placed. I think their strategy is bang on right now. When you're in opposition, whether you're the Conservatives or the NDP or the Bloc, being in opposition is incredibly hard to get your narrative, to get your message across. So you have to do things like we've seen Jagmeet Singh do, like we're seeing Pierre Poilievre do with announcements that are punchy, that are challenging the Prime Minister in order to break through and to get news coverage and to get into kitchen table conversations for everyday Canadians. It's a strategy that we're forced in opposition to utilize because you don't own the news cycle. The governments really do.
Grattan, last word to you on this one.
I just want to go back to this real, what's at the heart of this issue. The NDP has demonstrated that they're going to use their power to help Canadians. And if that's bringing in dental care, then they're going to fight to bring that in. And if it's about bringing in a pharmacare system that actually works for Canadians, then that's something they're going to fight for. If we see the Liberals not agreeing to positions that's going to actually help Canadians, then there's no purpose for the supply and confidence agreement. That's been the North Star for the NDP. So to me, I think that the NDP has been clear. They've compromised. They've been good faith actors. We're now seeing the Liberals not living up to the end of the bargain. So the NDP is now calling them out.
Okay, and we are marching towards March 1st.